I think you guys kind of alluded to it. Like a lot of players, like, oh man, I got to go to Gary, and then they get there and they go, "This place is awesome. The
Yep.
stadium is
Yep.
great. The clubhouse is." They rant about the clubhouse. They love it because of how big it is. A lot of
Mhm.
guys are like, "This is by far the biggest clubhouse we have
Yep.
on the road." And then
He gets one
shout out,
high in the air. Left field. This one's got a chance. And let's go on a cowhide. Joyride. Sound the horn. The RailCats clear the yard.
Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome back to the RailCats Talk Podcast. He's Chuck Polarek. I'm Kyle Svetich. And last time we had him on, it was just me. Now I have an extra person with me, so we get to ask him even more questions. Returning for a second time this year is Andrew Mild, the voice of the RailCats. Andrew, how are we doing?
we are doing great. We're missing baseball. Good thing the postseason just started, but we're good. How you guys doing?
Just, I was all for hockey season, and then Chicago Sports Network came out, and I don't have DirecTV, so I don't get to watch any of it. So that's always a positive. So my hockey season got shot real quick, so I'm just waiting for baseball.
And I mean, Joe Brand just went to the Penguins, so maybe you can adopt them for a little bit until that gets all figured out.
I do have ESPN Plus, so I get to watch every other NHL game. I just don't get to watch the Blackhawks play.
I can help you with that.
There you go.
Like we talked about last week, the other suffering fans that don't, baseball's over with. That 1% of the baseball fans that suffer.
Yep. Yep. It's over with. Now we gotta just wait.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
anyways,
well,
so
Andrew,
yeah.
you're off season. You just went down to Florida, missed the hurricane, went down to Disney. How was that?
I mean, it was really fun. Hit a little turbulence on the way in, not exactly my favorite thing in the world, but it was good to get out and enjoy some sun once again. Felt like we were in Kansas City in July again. It was 105 degrees. Rode a lot of rides. Went drinking around the world, but it
Mhm.
was just a good kind of like reward for getting through the long season, like 100 games and how many days I will remember. But it was good. It was good to get to spend time with the girlfriend and kind of like, hey, I know I was gone a lot. Let's go to your favorite place on earth and let's have some fun. And that's what we did. So we're good to be back, and I'm happy at 75 degrees. I never thought I'd miss it.
What was your favorite part of Disney?
So I am a massive Star Wars fan. So the Rise of the Resistance ride is just the
Mhm.
most incredible
Yes.
experience. And you guys know me, like on the air, I'm very emotional. My face also tells a story. So anytime something cool happened, the girlfriend, her name's Alex, would whip out the phone and record it. So she's got some pretty good reactions out of me, and she was smiling herself. So
What was your favorite place to eat?
oh man, we went to a lot of places, but we did the drinking around the world at Epcot, and they have a food and wine fest at this time of year. I
Mhm.
guess it's only my third time going to Disney World, first time in 10 years. But we had tried this German sort of dish where it was like cheese and potatoes,
Mhm.
and oh my goodness, it was so good. And then we were sitting there, and she went to go grab her water out of the bag that was on my back. Neither of us had our hand on the basket it was in, and it flew right off. And we looked at each other and we said, "Well, now we know." But the elote was also really good in Mexico, right next to where the Three Caballeros ride is.
I
Mhm.
love that ride.
Get that. It's $8, but it's a whole ear of corn covered. Oh my goodness, it's so
Yep.
good.
I always say that's my favorite ride is the Three Caballeros. It's the best
See,
ride in all of Disney.
see, Alex is a big Donald Duck fan, so I know she
Mm.
wanted to ride it. So we hit it a few times.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, normally when I go, I just go straight to the American one and I get the big turkey leg, but you know, that's just that comes from that it comes
You
from
know
the
what?
first time that I went when I was younger, and it was turkey leg every day was just that's what I had. So that's went back and I was like, I gotta go there. So
For
Yeah,
some
do
reason,
they slaughter the actual turkey in the back? Because I've seen those legs, and they are you get your money's worth on that
yes.
thing.
oh yeah. For some reason, I think you get the turkey leg, and then you go sit into the Hall of Presidents video that they show, and you just spend all day there, don't you?
Maybe I don't know.
You have the Disney worker, the cast members walk in going, "Sir, sir, you can leave. It's over."
Right.
Nah, I'm good. I'm
Right.
doing the AC and my chicken, my turkey leg. I'm
Yeah.
good. Just leave me here.
Yep.
Turkey
Yep.
leg, my American bear. I'm good. I don't need to go anywhere else.
I got my Goose Island. It's from Chicago, where I'm from.
No, Yingling. That's Yingling is mine. So that's
Oh,
that's
the
my
Yingling.
go-to.
Okay.
So yeah. So what's the off season for you? Not not being on the air, but what are you doing with the RailCats outside of that?
Just right now we're just tidying up the ballpark and stuff put away. We like to use the term winterize, just so obviously when it starts to get cold that we're not outside all the time and we're getting ready to do some sales. We're just waiting for the schedule to come out. I'm hoping that's coming out sooner than later. And then other than that, doing some football. Uh, I'm going to Whiting tomorrow, and then Friday I'm doing Region Sports Network Red Zone. It's only the second time they've ever done it, so we're going to be learning with the process and trying to do that. I'm not used to that sort of setting, but being able to show potential hirees that I'm more versatile than just calling the game is always big.
Mhm.
And then we'll go right into basketball season. But that and just spending a lot more time with family, so that when that time does come to get ready for baseball once again, that I spent my fair share of time with them, and that when I'm away, I don't feel as guilty as I
Yeah.
already do for being in like Winnipeg or Kansas City
Mhm.
or Cleburne.
Yeah, I mean that you said at the beginning of the year when we first talked was you wanted to take the job just because you wouldn't be closer to home. And now
Yep.
you get to spend that off season with the family. So when you're in season, you don't have to feel as guilty not spending that much time with the family. So there's the positive to the negative.
Yes. Yes. Well, then I can annoy them on Sundays when the Bears are playing, depending if they're playing good or bad. So
There you
Yeah,
go.
well,
There you go.
I went to the Bears Colts game and I loved every minute of it because I'm a Colts fan. So
I also went to the game.
Oh, what? How did I
Yeah,
not know this?
I sat on the far side, where Caleb threw his first passing touchdown.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we
So it was
were.
cool because I was at the New Year's game last year when Justin threw his last touchdown pass as
Mhm.
a Bear, and I saw Caleb's first. So maybe just good luck.
Yeah, maybe all good luck.
So you came into the season looking forward to kind of had this preconceived idea of what it was going to look like as far as the experience. What kind of jumped out at you as something that you were like a wow moment? Oh man, this is really nice.
There's a few things. I would say the first thing is, and I know you guys experienced this firsthand because you talk to our players a lot. Our guys were fantastic human beings. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, I couldn't have asked for a better crew to be around this year. Even the guys that had a harder time speaking English still found a way to communicate to me. The one that stuck out to me a lot too was Jose Contreras. Every time he'd see me, he'd mention like Kilo K, oh Kilo, every time, and then he smiled. He's just the nicest human being, and I feel that rubbed off on a lot of other guys too. And I don't want to say the guys in Southern Maryland were more stuck up, but I think they were older and kind of towards the end of their career. So it was kind of like a very drastic difference between last year to this year. And another thing too is the American Association does a phenomenal job of uniting all the different broadcasts and making it feel like one big network.
Mhm.
In the Atlantic League, I never got that vibe. I always felt like it was one team for themselves out of I think they have 10 teams, and the American Association has 12. So it was always really cool that a play would happen, like we would hit a home run, and I could see it and then immediately tweet it, or I could stay updated what's going on with the other games instead of having to dig deep onto their
Mhm.
point streak and say, "Oh, hey, Chicago is leading 5-2 because of a home run." I just gotta go on Twitter and find it. So those were the two big things. Was we had great guys, and the American Association is a great league to be a part of.
Now, I asked the question before the year started, and you couldn't really give me a definite answer because you didn't go through the entire year yet. What
Yeah.
are some of the biggest difference between the Atlantic League and the American Association? It could be broadcasting side, it could be players, it could just be hospitality. What are some of the major differences between the two leagues?
Yeah, I think that the American Association has a better idea of the technology side of things. They do a better job of using their social media platform. And I also like the awards of even like they have an award for the best clubhouse manager, which they don't like. I think the Atlantic League is trying to do that. I saw that they posted that. It was the first time ever they've ever given out some awards. So I think not just recognizing the people that play the game, but also the people that make sure that those guys have what they need to be able to play the game is huge. Um, and I just feel like, as I said, the league is very united. We have a group chat with all the different broadcasters across the league, and we'll message each other back and forth. Like the other day, I wished Dan Vaughn a happy birthday. So I saw Brett Allred did it, so then I wished him a happy birthday, and everyone else did. We texted Jack, congratulations for winning Broadcaster of the Year. So I think it's just the support of not just the fans like you guys, but also your fellow broadcasters, and just creating friendships and bonds through them. Like, how many other American Association broadcasters did you see congratulate Joe when he got the job with the Penguins? I know I did, because Joe and I have a connection, because one of my first partners was Connor Onion. He worked in Kane County with Joe. Joe worked in Windy City before with Terry Bonadonna, and then Terry hired me to work for Windy City in 21. So it's just the American Association itself is a family, and I really appreciate that, because it makes my job so much easier every day when I can talk to the guy that is sitting in the other booth, like, hey, what's going on with your guy? I'll tell you what's going on, like following storylines instead of reading the game notes all the time.
Yeah, it's nice having that nice little the bond. I guess it leads into the next question as well of where would you compare the talent level? Because that's all, I mean, if you get involved in independent baseball, it's always
Yeah.
which league is better, for sake of what reason is, where do you see the talent between the American Association and the Atlantic League?
Yeah, that is a really good question, and I know that is a big thing. I would say that the American Association is a good combination of the Atlantic League and the Frontier League, in the sense of you still have your younger guys that are still trying to find their way in professional baseball, or other guys that have been playing baseball for a decent amount of time that are trying to get back into affiliated ball or just trying to play for fun. The Atlantic League is so much older than the American Association, but that doesn't mean that the quality of play is better. I would say that it's pretty close. Like in the Atlantic League, I get to see a lot of guys that I watched play in the major leagues. Like I saw Daniel Murphy play. I got to see Mike Martinez play, and Shed Long was even in that league. But I think that the American Association, because of the 12 teams and the fact that a lot of players seem like they enjoy playing in this league, are starting to come over, and that quality of play is getting better. And I've noticed that even when I was in the Frontier League, I felt like right towards the end of the Taggart era is when the American Association started going from a Frontier League sort of sense to an Atlantic League sort of feel. And the talent level is right there. Because I remember even sitting there looking at Cleburne's roster, and I saw Shed Long and, oh my goodness, I'm going to blank on his name. Their first baseman that was a switch hitter. He led the league. He led the Atlantic League in home runs last year, and I'm like, this is an all-star team of Atlantic League guys. Even Jock Pichu was on their team, and he was with the Blue Crabs, and he was also a really good pitcher. Thomas Dillard. Yeah, it clicked.
Yeah, that's how I was just getting ready to pull it up.
Yeah, it clicked. I was thinking, I always get him and O'Grady mixed up in my head because they're sort of the same hitter, very aggressive, big swings. But the American Association, it's coming alive, and a lot of our players, even like we love playing not just in the American Association but also in Gary.
That's good to hear. You know, we talk to a lot of these guys, and we talk to a lot of guys that aren't on our team, right? And it's this apprehension to play in Gary for various different reasons. But it seems as though the guys that we get are very happy, you know,
Yes.
and it's, you know, can go back probably 4 or 5 podcasts with me and Kyle where we've talked about it. And Lamar has this thing where he picks up the right personalities. They might struggle with this or struggle with that, but it seems as though making sure that their personality fits on the team is a priority.
Yes.
And it sounds like you saw the payoff of that when you're dealing with these people on a regular basis. Um, you know, it's really one of those things where he puts this together, and we don't see a lot of things behind the scenes. But when you interact with the guys, it's like, okay, I get it. I see. You know,
With that being said, interacting with the players, is there a story or a handful of stories that kind of like jump out at you that you kind of always tell people, but
Yeah, like trying like interacting with our guys and sort of the yeah. I mean, one of my big ones that I always love is when we were leaving Winnipeg after the second time we were there. Um, Ty Tiedemann was like, "Hey, Andrew, do you want to join our fantasy football league?" I said, "Yeah, get me on there. Let's go." And LG created the league, so we were driving home to Gary after what was it, 9 games in 9 days, something strange like that, or is it 10? I don't remember. It was a lot. Um, so we were drafting on the bus on the way down, and it was hilarious because a guy would make a pick, and we would yell at him and be like, "That's not a great pick." I think Howie picked the Jets defense with like his fifth pick. We gave him so much, um, and I'm pretty sure he's like 4-1 right now. He's got a winning record. So we felt, Rincon, just the personality on that guy. You think his swing is large, his personality is even larger. And towards the end, he started saying my home run catchphrase a ton, and it's just so funny to hear him say it because he has such a heavy Dominican Republic accent that sometimes it didn't come out right, but he still was saying it with such joy and enthusiasm. Um, and then another one for me that meant a lot is that I have family in North Texas, and they drove over, and during that, I don't even know if there's a word to describe it. The game where the RailCats walked over 20 Cleveland Railroaders. Uh, my family had some baseball that they got during the game, and they asked Gio for an autograph. And you know, I would have completely understood if Gio was like, I had a rough day out in the field. I was standing out there for I don't know hours. It felt like because of all the walks and the deep counts. But they said, hey, we're Andrew's family, and Gio took the time to sign the autographs and go back, and that meant a lot to me because again, how easy would it have been for Gio to say, hey, next time, but it's just I'm tired. I get it. Because that Cleburne heat is. I don't know if you guys have been down the Cleburne to watch a game yet. Bring your shorts and some sunscreen. But those are the ones that stand out to me, and just the guys being very understanding and make me feel like I was a part of the team, even if I was just the guy sitting up in the nest commenting on what was happening. And even getting to talk to Cooper around the time he got to the team for the first time, I think, because it was the first time we went to Winnipeg, and he was even just talking about how the guys really appreciate me and that I'm good at what I do. And that means a lot hearing from those guys because especially when the guys are struggling, it can be really hard to hear. And I had a situation in Maryland where I was just doing my job. Like, this guy's batting this average. He has this many home runs, this many RBIs. And the player was like, hey, our guys don't want to hear their own stats. But that's my job. But I never had that all year, and that's all you can ask for.
I mean, listening, I'm one that said I listen when I'm at the ballpark. Even Chuck knows that I'm sitting right behind him. He'll say something. I wasn't paying attention. I was listening to Andrew talk, and the way that you even portray the stats, you still put it in a story. So it's not like you're just drowning it out with, oh, his on base percentage was this or slugging was like you added something to it. If someone was struggling, you were talking about how their batting stance changed. You talked about LG Castillo numerous of times on how he changed his batting stance around 1,000,001 times, and you asked him about it. He goes, I don't know, I just go up and I swing the bat. Like that's what he does. So,
Yeah.
um, and then I know this year some games were struggles, big blowout games. We witnessed walking history at one point in the year, but the one thing I take away is you didn't just talk about the game. You had so many stories just about baseball in general. Where's this encyclopedia of baseball come from?
Just the man, I'll tell you what, you gotta sit down and be around my family during opening day for the major leagues. It's just you grew up in this atmosphere of baseball is life. I always like to make the joke that baseball is a religion in our household, because my grandparents they still work at the Crown Point Babe Ruth as a president and in the concession stand. My dad, mom drove me to so many games. But when the season is either going on or around that winter time when we're um, getting that baseball bug biting us again, I'm watching movies, I'm reading books, I'm watching MLB network specials, just so I have more information and understanding of what's going on and why this is happening. So if like something does happen, it's like, hey, I'm gonna throw this out there, and I know a baseball fan is really going to appreciate it because for me, I feel like a lot of our viewers are just really diehard baseball fans. It's guys that never made it to the major leagues. You gotta go out of your way a little bit to find them somewhere on American Association TV. It's not like it's on cable, just the inconvenience of your own home. Like you guys are dedicated to that. So when I mention stuff like that, I know that you guys are gonna be like, okay, I have no idea what he's talking about, just drowning out. But I'm reading, I'm researching, and I have friends. I'm the sort of person that can sit around and be like, hey, you remember Xavier Nady that played for the Cubs? Whatever happened to that guy? That's me and my friends. That's what we do all the time. So I think the encyclopedia is just studying and then talking with friends all the time, and um, I just love the game, and it's the greatest sport on earth. Like I'm sitting there scrubbing Brotherhood bar right now and watching the Astros Tigers playoff game,
Mm.
and go Tigers, by the way. They're my adoptive team right now without the Cubs making it.
Yeah, they just got done beating the Astros, so they're out of it. So it's the Tigers moving on, and who I guess since we're talking about baseball and the playoffs are going on, who do you got? I mean, obviously you adopted the Tigers, so are you assuming that the Tigers going to take it all, or who are
See,
you thinking?
I'm getting that question a lot, and it might be the first time where I don't have an answer. Usually, I'm like, oh, I have a team that I think could do it, but we didn't have a single team win 100 games this year, so it's up in the air. Um, if I had to pick a team now, I think it's a team that got hot at the right time and even contended to win their division. I like the Padres.
Okay.
I like the Padres a lot. I think Michael King's a stud. I love Joe Musgrove. Darvish came back, and Darvish can be very reliable when he is in big situations. Nando hit that huge home run last night, and I think Manny Machado will come along. But that team made some great moves that you kind of sat and you kind of waited. How can I forget about Dylan Cease? I mean, we're in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
But their pitching staff is deep, in which you only need, three guys to win a series.
Yeah.
Just look at what the Cleveland Guardians did in 2016, and then a couple of big bats that can hit home runs, and that's what it comes down to in the postseason. So I really like the Padres. I think they can really run the table, especially if they can get the pitching like they did last night from Michael King. They had a great, phenomenal, dominating game against Atlanta.
What I guess what we're talking about playoffs with the American, we're really back to the American Association. When watching through the American Association playoffs, I wasn't expecting Kane County to take it all in the way they did it, going 7-0. That was an unbelievable run in first case of that. But going through the playoffs, what were some of the some things that you looked at? You're like, dang, I really wish that was kind of brought to Gary.
Yeah, I mean, I think just getting the playoffs back in Gary in general would be great. Because I'm watching that Kane County Chicago game for the East Division Championship, and the walk off down the line and just the crowd going nuts. And it's funny. I remember I told Brandon this, and he can confirm it. I told him, I said, you watch out for Kane County. They could be a very sneaky team because George Samus, he did a really good job of resting those guys, especially when they already knew they were going to get in. So their record might have I think they won like 67 games, something like that. I forgot how many they won. But I said their record doesn't show how good of a team they really are because he did a really good job making sure those guys were ready and ramped them up the last 2 weeks. And I think allowing 4 out of the 6 teams to make it out of each division gives you that sort of leeway of being like, hey, go ahead and take some rest. We'll get you in tomorrow. Because I know when the Cats played the Cougars, Cornelius Randolph sat 2 out of the 3 games, and he was their best hitter. I mean, he won the Miles Wolf Cup final MVP.
Yeah.
So I knew they were going to be good. I didn't expect 7-0. But the playoffs got to come back to Gary because you saw what it was like. You guys were there for the sellout, right? It was packed house. Like people still are interested in RailCats baseball and always will be, I think, in this part of the state. So getting them into that playoff like atmosphere of, hey, every pitch is a big moment, every hit is going to, because it's going to make it really hard to drive on the toll road without looking over and saying, hey, what's going on over there?
Yeah, you're not wrong. Kind of take it to other ballparks. You got to tour everyone except Sioux City.
Yes.
What was your favorite ballpark to visit?
See, I'm going to sound very generic because they won Playing Service of the Year for like the 23rd time in a row. It was Lincoln. Oh, my goodness. Lincoln, because it's college, the windows don't open this way. It goes up.
Oh.
So it's out of your way, and you have a great view. There's a monitor up to your right, and it's just gorgeous because then you got the big football stadium across the street. And football is my second sport. You can walk to the stadium from the hotel, and the stadium is gorgeous. But I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to the Harders, Noah and Jonah, and their crew this year. I was hoping they won Playing Surface of the Year. They deserve getting second place at least because they don't have – the way I compared it to is you have the Salt Dogs that have the Nebraska money, University of Nebraska money, so like they're the Yankees. Yep. Not taking anything away from them. They work hard, and there's a reason why it looks the way it does. Noah and Jonah feel like they're the A's because there's only a few people. I mean, they get like Anthony does a good job of making sure they get what they need. But they only have like 3 or 4 people, and they're out there from, 7 o'clock till right before the game starts, and then staying after to make sure it's ready to go. So they were down in the dirt all the time. I love the Steel Yard. That's easily my favorite ballpark, but the favorite one to visit was Lincoln. Winnipeg was cool. I really liked Kansas City's, in the sense of it was right there. You didn't have to walk too far. Kane County's was nice. Chicago, of course. But like there wasn't too many ballparks where I knew that I didn't think was bad. I liked them all. They all had their unique sense. But definitive answer, Gary and Lincoln.
A couple of years ago, and it's nice having that government money. It's nice having that extra cash for them to put on a show for a field. But when you have the money and you can pay the people to do it, that's wonderful. But the time and effort that our guys put in to give the field the look that it has, I've even had players that I've talked to off the rail, not RailCats players that are like, we love playing in Gary for the surface, So it's they should eliminate Lincoln from the competition, and it should just really be who's next. And I think Gary would snag it just about every time.
Yeah, I throughout the courses of the year, I mean, I know Winnipeg had their issue. Kansas City had their awful issue with their infield and their whatever the heck. But Gary's just one of those that you consistently see Towards the end, you see the ruts and stuff like just from normal wear and tear of the field, but outside of that, you don't. It's nothing like eye gouging to a certain extent,
Right.
and that's just it's one of those things that we feel like we get overlooked because we know what the Harder brothers did, and even Noah before them put in the time and effort for that stadium. So hopefully, knock on wood, next year we can try to make something change with that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hoping to. Yeah, and that's the thing too is I think you guys kind of alluded to it. Like a lot of players, like, oh man, I got to go to Gary, and then they get there and they go, this place is awesome. The
Yep.
stadium is
Yep.
great. The clubhouse is they rant about the clubhouse. They love it because of how big it is. A lot of guys are like, this is by far the biggest clubhouse we have
Yep.
on the road. And then a shout out to Darren and Brandon for taking care of the guys. So then they always have their stuff. And then of course, like Chicago clinched their playoff spot at the Steel Yard,
Yeah.
and Anthony went out of his way to make sure that they got to do what they wanted to do, and they really appreciated that. And I think that goes a long way when you can respect your opponent after you're outside the lines. That's going to show them, like, hey, this is a respectful organization. Going to Gary is not a bad thing.
I
think
kind of ruined that.
Chuck's not happy about that.
Yeah, no, they wheeled the champagne out right in front of my seats, and I said, "You don't let them celebrate on our field."
Yeah. Well,
And then
hopefully.
and then Taylor said, "Well, they paid for it. We didn't pay for it." And I said, "Okay, that's fine. They paid for it. You wheel it right outside those gates, and you said, go ahead and celebrate in Gary."
Now, me and Chuck both enjoy ballpark food, and this year we found out the RailCats sell pulled pork and pulled chicken, which we didn't had no idea about until later halfway through the season. But outside of that, what's some of your favorite ballpark foods, and who has maybe the potential best ballpark food?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I tried a lot of good stuff this year. You know what was really good? Milwaukee, they have a milkshake there because of course they're
Mm.
the milkmen. It is so good. It was gas. They brought it to me, and it didn't stand a chance. And then they brought me some chicken, and it was fresh. And that's another ballpark I really loved was Milwaukee, because it's a big space and it's turf, and they do a great job there too. And you have all shops all around. Um, but their milkshake. If you guys haven't been there to
Yep.
watch a game and try their milkshake, it's so good. And then across the street from our hotel is a bar called Point After, and they have Spotted Cow, which is like a beer you can only get in Wisconsin. I had to buy some on the way out, and I brought some and brought it to my dad because he asked me to bring some home so he could try it. And it's still sitting in our fridge because I think we're kind of rationing it until I get to go back to Wisconsin.
I have a good question for you. So
Yeah.
we watched these playoffs, and I went to two of the Kane County games against Winnipeg, and Kane County had maybe 1,500 people that showed up one game, maybe 3,000 the second time that we went, something like that. It was relatively low numbers for Kane County, right? You go to Winnipeg and they play one game there, and sellout crowd.
Yeah.
Jam-packed at the end of the season for Winnipeg. And talking to the players and stuff, they tell me, Winnipeg's a different animal when it comes to baseball compared to all the other teams. Did you notice that? And what is something that specifically when it comes to Winnipeg where it was like, man, these guys love baseball?
You know what's funny? And I remember talking about this on the air. Their ushers are incredible. I remember they play music in between innings, and I'm sitting there and I look down, and they dance like you're at a Texas Roadhouse. Like, you know how their song would come on, they start dancing. That's what it was like every time in between half innings. But I think what really helps out Winnipeg is that there's no one even close to them. There's a lot of Blue Jays fans. Don't get me wrong; you'll find a lot of Blue Jays stuff there. I don't know the geography of Canada, so I typed in and go, how far is it to get to Toronto? It's going to take you 18 hours to drive to Toronto to even catch a Blue Jays game. So they're by themselves. Their I think they call it a what do they call it? They call it a state there or a province. The
Yeah,
province of
province.
Manitoba has one team, and it's
Mhm.
the Gold Eyes, and they're right downtown where you could walk over there. So, and they also do a really good job of making it family friendly. Their ballpark is always really nice and clean, and it's gorgeous. And it's small enough and the wind just right. You see a home run.
Mhm.
And I think that's why you've had so many great players go to Winnipeg because they're going to go there and they're going to have themselves a good crowd and they're going to be able to hit some dingers. What was the stat? I think there's 5 players that have hit 100 home runs or more in the American Association. 4 of them have played at Winnipeg at one point or another as a Goldeye. The only one that hasn't is Jabari Henry. He's the only one because he's always been a Canary, right? Or did he
Yep.
play for
Played at
St.
13.
Paul one time? So he's only been a Canary. So those guys want to go there and play in front of that good crowd and at a good ballpark and be right downtown Winnipeg when there's the skyscrapers. And I mean, from a hotel, you could look right outside the window and you could see the ballpark. So yeah, they have a lot of great things going for them, and there's a reason why it's one of the most historical MLB partner league team that you can find out there.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things is that they've got a DJ. And do you think
Yes.
if we had a DJ and Gary that we would get more people?
That's a really good question.
Bring it up.
I know.
Let it be your idea. Okay. Bring it up to Anthony. Just pitch it. Say, hey, we need to have a DJ. Let's see where it goes.
Well, I even went to the Savannah Bananas game in Des Moines right after our season ended, and they have, of course, the DJ going. And I know the White Sox have a DJ.
Mhm.
That's actually a pretty good idea. That might be something I have to bring up and see if something that we could do.
Well, I don't think that the DJ really helped the White Sox with their attendance this year. Maybe, maybe. But
Well, maybe we can get
Oh,
Rusty to be a DJ.
that's
DJ
it.
Rusty.
The DJ Rusty.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
whatever.
what Kyle said. He said we should use Rusty. He'd be a
DJ
good-
Rusty. I
Maybe bring back Rascal and let him be the DJ.
There we go.
See,
See,
you got
just
all these
come with ideas. That's
Yeah.
what we
Go to
do
Anthony. These are your things. Run with it.
here.
In between you guys and me, I was always more of a Rascal kid than I was a Rusty kid. So
Well,
Well,
I'm
that's
sure
fair.
Esco's running around there somewhere. I'm sure that there's.
yeah, he's somewhere.
Yeah, they haven't caught him yet. He's still running loose. He's running around Gary
He's
somewhere.
he's been on a very long vacation.
It's what we always tell when people quit at work. We say that they're on vacation or they get fired. We're like, yeah, they're just on vacation. They're coming back. Don't worry. So that's just
Yeah.
it's just on a small vacation. Going back into the season, is there a game that you sit back on and you just think about, man, that was such a good game? Is there a game that you've enjoyed the most?
The game that stands out to me was the Saturday night game in Lincoln, where I believe we were down a few runs and then the Cats rallied back. I think Guillermo may have had a big hit, went into extra innings and won, scored in early parts, and then Nate came in and he got the last couple of outs. Because that was when the Cats were red hot, come off the
Mhm.
sweep against Winnipeg, with what I like to call the skeleton crew, because of course I couldn't even count. I know you had the number. How many different players did we have to leave back in Gary?
10.
10, yeah.
It was a lot. 10? Yeah, it was a lot. And then go to Lincoln, you lose the first game by 1 run, had Miguel thrown out at home on a close play. No big deal. Come back the next night, win that game. Hit a couple of big home runs from Contreras and Rincon to win on Sunday. Then went home and took 2 out of 3 from Kane County. And that was some of the most fun baseball I have ever seen. And then the game that also stood out to me was that last game, or I'm not sorry, not last game, but one of the last series in Milwaukee when I think the team was down 5 runs twice and still won the game. And Jose had two RBI doubles. That was so much fun and scored 13 runs on like 18 hits. But when I see the guys and their hard work pay off, it made me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And those guys worked hard, and the record doesn't show how hard they worked this year and how much time they put into it. and they played through injuries and dinks and dings and maybe being a little homesick. They hadn't seen the family in a long time, but those are some really great games. And of course, how can I forget about the Rincon 3-homer game?
Chuck,
Yeah.
you were saying something before I
gonna
rambled on.
So this is the way it typically goes at the field. So I'm sitting there, I'm watching the game. I look back, Kyle, what you doing? He ignores me. Kyle, what's going on? Oh, no, I'm listening to the play-by-play. Oh, okay. What's Andrew saying now? Oh, Andrew said that call, he doesn't know how it wasn't a strike. Okay, all right. I mean, this is the way the conversation goes the whole game is what's Andrew saying now? Okay. All right. What about this? Well, I didn't know that we were, the record was 28 hits in a game or something like that. I mean, just like all of this stuff gets thrown out, all of these fun facts that you come up with, and it's even more interesting when you're sitting there watching the game at the field and you've got somebody play by playing and
So it sounds like Kyle was the play-by-play for the play-by-play.
It's the best way to keep yourself engaged in the game because you miss out on a lot of things when you're not listening to the front. Because to be honest, I work a 40-hour week, 50 hours a week, and I don't get the opportunity to dive deep into statistics as much as I want to. And you get to live, breathe, eat it, sleep it, and you know everything. Like you're the guy. You have the stats. You have everything. Right then and there. So if I want to know what's going on with the team, I have to go to the main source, and that's Andrew
Yeah.
Mild. So that's why you got to pop in the headphone. It's not that you call great, awesome games. I mean, I love the way you call games. There's a mixture of everything in it, but even just the stats that you come up with are just always on point. So that's why I also listen. Keeps me engaged in the game.
Yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel better, Kyle, sometimes I'd read top 10 things, I think you call it.
Yes.
Sometimes I'd even go on there and be like, oh, I didn't even know that. So sometimes I don't know if you noticed that, but sometimes I'd throw in a Kyle Svetich stat that you found. I'm like, oh yeah, that I guess that did happen. I think it was when that I remember is we were in Lake Country, and I think Guillermo had thrown out 4 base runners in 4 games in a row.
Yeah.
I go, oh yeah, he has. So then I was like, oh, thanks, Kyle. So I used it.
Hey, you just I get to sit there. See, especially on the away games, I have it up on the TV, and then I have the computer up with the point streak, and I can able to sit there and type everything in. So it works out that way. I like stats. Stats are fun.
Yeah. Then I like what you said earlier about and that was something that me and Graham talked about a lot because Graham's learning from me was in baseball you have to have stats with context. That's why I preach to him is yeah, that guy might have more home runs than this guy, but this guy plays in a more hitter-friendly ballpark than that guy. So that's why sometimes I talked about a lot with Rincon, especially when he was red hot. Like, yeah, he has 13 home runs, but he's top 3 in the league. But those other guys ahead of him play a more hitter-friendly ballpark. So for us, that's more impressive because our ballpark is very pitcher-friendly when the wind is blowing off of Grand Ole Lake, Michigan, and it's dying and then falling like 30 feet short. But yeah, I'm not that sort of guy. I call it stat dumping, where it's like I'm gonna throw as many stats at you, and then hopefully I sound smart, but I really don't because I'm more or less confusing you more than I am telling the story, which is my job.
Yeah. Speaking of Graham Nash, good thing you mentioned because I was going to bring him up. How was it? You're in a role of you're doing the broadcast, but you're also teaching at the same time. What kind of person is Graham Nash and outside of the microphone, and what where he was at the beginning of the year and where he ended the year, what was his most improved?
Yeah, and Graham's phenomenal. He is a hard worker. He's very dedicated. He'd come in whenever I asked him to, and he dealt with being sick here and there. He's still learning a lot about broadcasting, and it's hard because he was more of a golfer growing up. I know he talked about that a lot. He's still learning a lot about baseball. There's sometimes he'd say something, and I go, that's not how you say it. But he was very receptive for what I was telling him. Like I know one thing he would say is that he has 3 strikes. He meant to say strikeouts, but it came out as strikes. I said, hey, by the way, you said this. It's just stuff that you don't really think about. Like stuff that I remember being taught is like, hey, say the score as many times as you can because maybe you're listening on the radio. They don't know what the score is because they're not watching it. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I never even thought of that because it's not something you think about." And the one thing that always sits in my mind, the thing I have to try and get over when I'm broadcasting is how many times am I going to say the same thing over and over again? Because in my mind, I'm thinking I don't want to turn into a drinking game. You guys ever watch How I Met? You guys ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yep.
There's a one episode where Robbins keeps saying "but," and they take a shot. I don't want someone to play that with me. Calling
Got
a
it
game.
next year.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. It looks like Chuck and Kyle are drunk down the right field line.
Well, that would be not me, not him. So
Right.
Oh, okay. But it was just getting him to learn the game and then getting him to go and talk to the players in game. You have to get through that hump of, hey, these are professional baseball players. That's kind of scary. I'm a little nervous. But once you get around the guys and talk to them, they're completely fine. I know Rincon messed with them a little bit and like put the bat between his feet and was like doing like you ever watch Aliens and you know the part with Bishop where he's playing the knife game where he's trying not to hit his hand. That's what Kyle Rincon was doing with his bat and Graham's feet. But I know he said he learned a lot, and I hope it's translating to him going back to IU Bloomington. He's calling football for what is it called? He's calling high school football down there. He's calling IU soccer, volleyball, and the way the broadcasting world works, and Kyle, you might know this. If you can call a baseball game, you can call any other sport. Because baseball is a lot more dead time than any other one. I'm noticing that when I'm calling football. I'm like, hey, I'm coming in with a lot of stuff that I know, but I don't have to use it as much because I need to call what's going on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing, too, with Graham is first it was a lot of history and background on the guy. And I told him, I was like, hey, that's great that you're prepared. What has he been doing lately?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's great that you know that LG played for the Washington Wild Things before he became a RailCat and was a Milwaukee Brewer farmhand. What is he doing this year? And then he got way into the stats. And I said, hey, that's great. Spin it. You need to spin it. We need to find a way to bring in the past, the present, and spin it into a story. Like us knowing that Marcos Gonzalez was on pace to have a career high in home runs based off of other stats. And like, hey, he had these many home runs in this year after a resurgence after coming back from COVID. And he goes, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So I think it's just guiding him and pushing him in the right way and it clicking was the best part. And he's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, I would agree going through. And then actually, I think we should bring him back to be the DJ because he was DJ Graham for a little bit.
Yes.
Where he had his headphones up like this. He was just up in the studio like this. So
I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, my ears hurt. I'm like, dude, come on, man. And he would what he would do is kind of like when you know how like sometimes when you're tired, you're trying not to fall asleep, you're keeping one eye open, and he's shutting it so the other one can get some rest. He would switch the mic around, he'd swing it, and then switch the ear so that the one was getting the ear pad on it, the other one was getting a breather. I was like, dude, just take the whole thing off in between innings, man. You're fine. But that was really funny. And that was just like some of the stuff that I think that it's great about baseball that broadcasters can have fun like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that Graham learned was, hey, I don't have to come in here and be serious for 9 innings for 2.5 to 3 hours every night. I couldn't tell you how many times. Like, I'll never forget this. When Sioux Falls was in town and Trevor Achenbaugh was up and he had that long beard.
Mm.
And I go, Graham, how do you think someone grows something like that? Is it like chia seeds they put in and he just put water on it and like a chia pet? And Graham goes, what's a chia pet? I go, oh, come on, man. You don't know what a chia pet is?
That was really early on in the year, too.
I felt so old when he said that because I remember watching chia pet commercials. So I showed him it and he goes, I've never heard of those in my life. I guess they don't have chia pets in California.
I don't know what everything out there causes cancer. I don't think they have much. But that's beside the point. The one call I out of all the numerous of great calls you had, the one that I always enjoy was the one in Lake Country where the wind was blowing out wildly, and I forget who hit it, and you're just like, and it's gone? Like that was just a pure like emotion that just happened, and even I was like, oh, you know, home run out of that. What outside of that, what are some of your favorite calls that you remember?
Yeah. And I think the one you're alluding to, I think it was JT Benson. It was his
Mm.
first professional home run, so I felt so bad. But it was the first time I've ever been to a Oconomowoc, and he hits this line drive, and I'm so used to watching that same line drive at the steel yard that goes for a double, and it went right over the wall, right above the sign where it says the distance, and just cleared. And it's just natural. It just came out like, and it's gone. Like I wasn't prepared to say it was gone. I was just prepared for it to say, oh, and it's on the ground against the wall, and Contreras tossing it back in. That's a two bagger. Um, the Abatini ones are two of
Mm.
my favorites. Of course, the one in Cleburne against Cleburne was so impressive because I heard that he was a good defender, but I didn't know how good. And he made that diving play, and I just let it rip. I was like, that was such a big play, especially because I think that was the game he also hit his first pro home run. He got off to a great start that game.
Yeah.
And then the second one in Winnipeg was really cool. Uh, the Grand Slam in Cleburne. I had a fan come up, well, not one of the fan, but a guy upstairs in the press box come up to me wearing a Mavericks shirt because they were in the finals at that point, and he goes, "A cowhide joyride in the grandest of fashions." He goes, "I like that," and I think it's like anytime a fan can come up to me like, "Oh, I really like that call," it means a lot to me. Um, and I think also one of my favorite ones at the end was when Rincon leaped over the Chicago catcher. I don't remember who it was that game because they had so many by the end. But it was just like stuff that you don't expect, and you just get excited, and your crowd's getting excited too because they've never seen anything like that. I think number one was when the RailCats walked it off against Kansas City
Mm.
because Cannon scooped it up cleanly, and in my mind, I'm like, all right, well, we're going to extras, and it was a low throw, and because of the way that their first baseman Tosta, I think his name
Mm.
was, I think I'm saying that right, was positioned. His back was turned to us. So we saw the ball hit him, and then it kind of just squeaked right behind him. So it was just like that moment of pause, and then RailCats win, and then the crowd going nuts, and our players going nuts. That's my favorite one by far. That was just such a fun early season moment. And also beating the defending league champions and taking a series win.
Yeah. That's
I have the question for you guys then. What's your favorite Andrew Mild calls?
See that I the all the Anthony Abatini ones are great. The Grand Slam, the one that really the one that sticks out to me is the home run one because it was just pure emotion at that point, and really anytime the one thing I take away that I really enjoy about listening to you is you're you're always you're always emotional in the game, and that's a good thing. As far as
Mhm.
like what the fans would be thinking, that's what you're portraying. So it makes it fun to listen to that aspect. When something good happens, it's good, happy Andrew. When it's not so good, it's yeah, not so good. Andrew calling it because it's not a good play. It's just one of those that your emotion portrays what we're thinking. So a
Right.
lot of your calls are just always I love the cowhide joyride. That's yes. So I I was one day I was cooking dinner. I said that my wife's like, are you really saying that right now?" I said, "Yeah, I am." So let me do it. So yes, that's I enjoy that one. Bend the beam into the W. I like that. It's a good word play on Gary, the steel beam that is used as a baseball bat, and I caught it at the end, a little bit later in the year because we weren't really winning as much, so I never really caught on to it. And then I finally caught it. Yeah, I've been saying it all year. I'm like, well, now I feel like an idiot. So,
Yeah, I had one in Maryland because obviously they're the Blue Crabs. Um, so their logo, I don't know if you guys ever seen the Blue Crabs logo. They actually use a claw for
mm,
BC. And for me, I was looking at the claw and I go, that two of those together could make a W. So I would say something along the lines of put two claws together and form a W, the Blue Crabs win. Something to myself, what can I do in Gary? And I know RZ said this one is wrapped up in green and maroon.
green and
I think
white.
that's how he's
It's green
Green,
and
yeah,
white. Yeah. Wrap this one.
yes,
Wrap this one in green and white. The RailCats win. Something like that.
yes. So I was like, how did I make mine unique? And of course, like we didn't win as many games as we would like of. But yeah, I did. I tested that one out, and I was like, I like that. It came out real smooth. It sounds great. I also like sound the horn
Yes.
because
Yep. I do
I
like that.
forgot
Yep.
that and that one was natural because I forgot we had a horn, and then I think Marcos hit that first home run at home, and I said sound the horn. I go, oh yeah, that's great. So, yeah. What about you, Chuck?
I'm gonna throw mine out here. I like when I guess the thing that I look forward to most. I'm listening to your commentary and you'll say something, and I'm like, hold on, let me tweet it to him. Here's something that he needs to think about, and that interaction, right? It was
Yes.
you mentioned when you were in Cleburne, Roger Clemens, and I was like, Casey Clemens played for them a couple of years ago. You know, let's see if he knows this. And so I'll throw it out there, and I'm like, there it is. He mentioned it. You know, the only reason why I know Casey Clemens played there is because he actually gave my mom a baseball when we were sitting over there, and I'm like, Mom, you knew who that is? That's Roger Clemens' son.
Oh wow. But
So
that kind of stuff is helpful too because I'm first year as with the Railcats, you're trying to learn as much as you can about the history of your club that you're not necessarily thinking, I wonder if Roger Clemens' son ever played for Cleburne. So like you guys being the encyclopedias of the American Association helps me a lot on the air because then that gives me something to talk about, especially because we had some stinker games back down in Cleburne. So it's like a good like, oh yeah, like Roger Clemens' son played for the team, and he was I think he was he a Philly before that or
I
a Stro,
think his
something like that. He
brother
was in the
was a
minor
Philly.
leagues with somewhere.
I think his brother was a Philly or might still be a Philly.
Yes.
But what was interesting is I was told that upstairs, I guess, is a bar or somewhere there's a bar in Cleburne, and Roger Clemens actually had a reserved table there for any time that he came in. That's where he sat.
Oh wow, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, so it was, and he was very affiliated with the team for that year. So I thought I was like, that's kind of cool, going there to see his son play, and even though he's Roger Clemens, hey, that's kind of cool.
Well, the one I knew, and I think it's something that I'm thinking about because he just recently passed away. Pete Rose, I know his son played, I think in the old Northern League, right? Pete Rose Jr.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, that we'd have to
I
do some
think,
thinking on that one.
yeah, I think Pete Rose Jr. played in the Northern League. So I think I remember watching him play. He might have been a St. Paul Saint,
Hmm.
but you'll have to double check me on that.
That's hey, I was I was a big fan of Pete Rose, and my favorite team is the '83 Phillies. That's
Mm.
so when I watch the RailCats play, there's certain things that really irk me, like when you hit the ball and you stand there and stare at it instead of running. When you before the pitcher has even taken a step, you're already putting the bat down to square away for a bunt. I'm like, what do you want? The third baseman to run all the way down there and shake your hand before you let go of the ball? I mean, stuff like that. I'm like, boy, is it so irritating, But those were my teams because the Phillies, you ran out everything or you weren't on the team, and they could play the small ball of dropping it down and going. Um, but that's who was your favorite baseball team, favorite baseball player that you looked up to when you were a kid?
Oh, that's a really good question. I have so many. I think the first one that I remember being a fan of because obviously I was young, I didn't understand. Sammy Sosa. I loved the '07-'08 Cubs, even though Sosa wasn't on the team. I then adopted Derek Lee as my favorite player. I loved D. Lee. I loved Kerry Wood. Um, my room, believe it or not, was decorated Cubs.
Mm.
I had cards like Sean Dunston. I had his card, and I got to see his son play for Lancaster last year. I mean, for Lake Erie before that. And then my dad went through the bottom of the wall and painted pinstripes, blue pinstripes across the entire way. So the 07-08 Cubs were the first experience I ever had of the Cubs making the postseason, where I could actually remember it because I was alive for 03. My parents actually went to the Bartman game. They were there for it. And then obviously like the 2016 Cubs, like that's just the best team of my lifetime, and well, I forever will be unless they put it together. Outside of the Cubs, though, you gotta love those 2018 Red Sox.
Mm, yep.
JBJ, Mookie, Benintendi, Sale. Oh my goodness, that team was so much fun to watch. They just dominated, and they had fun doing it. Xander, of course, was at short. Rafi at third, and then of all those big names, they had someone go out there and hit, I forgot what his name was, hit a bunch of home runs and beat the Dodgers and won the World Series MVP. But yeah, I love the Sox. Josh Hamilton was another big one for me because my hitting coach, which is Dan Plezak's brother, Joe,
Wow.
said I had a swing like Hamilton. And I'd watch it. And I did. I even have like the little hop that Hamilton would do that was so natural. And then Jake Arrieta, Juan Soto now, all-time favorite player is Ted Williams.
Okay.
Teddy Ballgame is he was way before his time. He would have easily won so many more MVPs if they valued OBP and OPS and slugging a lot more than they did back then. Because you look at the 1941 year where he batted 406, he didn't win MVP because DiMaggio went on that 56-game hitting streak
Yep.
where they only batted 344 for those 56 games, while Ted batted 406 for a whole season. Just baffles me. And even like 2 years where he won the Triple Crown, he didn't win MVP. And just, I won't get in too much into it, but also serving in 2 wars, being an American hero,
Yep.
telling guys, hey, swinging up on the ball is going to work a lot better than swinging down. And then tell them basically you're full of it. And nowadays, everyone's like, hey, swinging up is good. And it's just, he's the father of modern day baseball. And I read his book, The Science of Hitting, 5, 6, 7 times. And it makes a lot more sense. And that's why Juan Soto is my favorite player, because he's the modern day version of Ted. He walks, he hits bombs, he's patient, doesn't really care about defense. But they're just phenomenal baseball players that understand that you don't have to get a hit every time. Go up there, work the count, and get on base any way necessary.
That's something that I think is lost today is the taking pitches, being selective,
Yes.
getting on base, whatever it takes. I don't understand how. Yes, I understand a guy's a power hitter, but if you got a guy on third and one out and you need to get that run in, I don't care if he's a power hitter or not. He should know how to bunt the ball and get that run in. I mean, just stuff like that where it's like, I know that there's these unwritten rules of who can do what or whatever, but for me, it's just simple baseball. You get on base. We need guy on, get on base.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that baseball is very hard as it is, and if you're complicating it more than it actually is, you're gonna find yourself not succeeding as much. And that's what Ted basically said was find a good pitch to hit. He goes, it's the best advice I ever got. And Wade Boggs, one of the best hitters of his time, read the same book I did, and he got the same thing out of it. He goes, if I go up there and look for a pitch and I hit it, it's gonna be good. And I agree with you, Chuck. I despise whenever there's a guy at second with no outs and you walk away with no runs after 2 strikeouts and a ground ball. And it's just like, hey, if you slap it to the right side with 2 strikes, you can at least get him the third if you're not feeling comfortable at the plate. Pitchers are a lot better. I'll give them that. Pitchers are a lot better now because of technology and understanding what spin rate is and having more information given to you about where to attack a certain guy and what pitch he'll most likely chase. But sometimes you just got to choke up on the bat and just smack it towards the middle of the diamond, play some pepper, and get some runs in. It just drives me nuts. And I've seen a lot of teams do that this year.
I think that's something that Valera was really good at. He was really good at just slapping that ball with 2 strikes and getting on base. And it was like, oh wow, yeah, he could hit the ball and he could hit it hard, but he would just slap it opposite field and get on base.
Mhm.
You're like, perfect.
Him and another one for me was LG. Was one
Mm.
of the most uh, well-known situational hitters that we had this
Yep.
season. I couldn't tell you how many times there'd be a guy at third and he's in an 0-2 count with one out, and he'd be like, "All right, let me just hit it to short and let me get this run in." He was so good at that, and I couldn't tell you how many times you look at LG stats and be like, "Hey, he's actually a really good hitter with runners in scoring position. He's also a really good job of driving guys in when the RailCats really needed it."
Chuck, do you have any more questions you want to run through, or
I I have a fun fact for you, and I don't know if you know this or not. It has nothing to do with baseball. Okay.
Yeah,
Do you know the significance of the blue crab?
the significance of the blue crab. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I do.
So the blue crab, oddly enough, has blue blood. Okay. And what they will do is they will catch blue crabs and they will pull out, uh, I think it's like 50% of the blood out of the crab, and they will use it. That blood is the most expensive liquid ever. Okay. So you can go back to what the inkjet printers are, right? The ink that was like the most expensive liquid. Well, actually, the blood of the blue crab is the most expensive. And here's why. In pharmacy, when they're producing medication, they will use that blood and they will put it on a pill. And if it changes colors, I believe it's changing color. If it changes colors, it means that it's contaminated. And
Wow.
so there is the significance of the blood of the blue crab. That's why the blue crab is such a thing.
Yeah, I never heard that, but that's actually a really fun fact. I will tell you what though, I had to learn how to eat blue crab when I was there, and I was like, oh man, I'm a Midwesterner. I don't know what I'm doing, but they're delicious. But that is something I'm gonna have to keep in mind the next time I'm talking about the blue crabs. I know a few times I mentioned them this year, um, but that's how do you even know that?
Good question. Uh, I can't remember what rabbit hole I went down, but I believe it was the question of what's the most expensive liquid. And I was like, obviously it's HP ink from their printers. And then I was like, oh, wait a second, it's the blood of the blue crab. And I'm like, why? Why would that be such a thing? And that's how they make sure the medication is clean, is pure, as they through the process of creating the medication or whatever it is, the pills, they dab it with this, and for some reason it can coagulate or it changes color or something instantly when it's contaminated. And you're like, oh, wow, I never realized that it was that important. And then you read how they harvest it, they catch them, they suck out the blood or whatever, and how hard it is to get it. I'm like, that's so much easier than getting ink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, that was yeah. I when you said we're talking about the blue crabs, and I was like, oh, Maryland, yeah. So let's yeah, that's a fun fact.
Yep.
So there you go. That's the more you know, Kyle. You need
The
to do
more
it
you
here.
know.
The more you know.
Yeah, you need to play this theme when he says that at the
Yes,
end.
yes. I will. I'm actually off tomorrow, so I'll actually take the entire day to work on this. Unlike the other days where sometimes it's just like, all right, I'm just gonna hurry up and cut this up real quick and throw it out there because I got no time
Yeah.
in between. But that's nor here nor there on that one. That's Ryan's job. Ryan, you take care of that.
There we go.
Um,
Ryan's been doing good today. He hasn't said a word to me.
Yeah, Ryan was out. We let him out of the cage today. That's beside the point. Anyways, what is your biggest takeaway from the 2024 season?
Oh man. The biggest takeaway, I would say, just working in such a great front office. Like, I look forward to going to work every day because the people I work with are just so great. Like we're basically turning into one big happy front office family. And then our coaching staff, like I love Lamar, I love Kent, Smokey and Jason treated me really well this year. Um, and then just the players, just great human beings, and that I know I said it on air, and I might have sounded like I was just blowing smoke up someone's butt, but we do have the best fans in MLB Partner League baseball. Like it's like I feel like our fans are way more dedicated than other teams. and that we have fans that always come on out. And a lot of people don't realize that how important baseball is in this part of the state. I think a lot of people outside of Indiana think, oh yeah, like basketball everywhere. No, up here we really appreciate the RailCats, and then of course the Cubs and the Sox. Um, and it's just I think I just finding that love again for going to RailCats games, because I went a lot as a kid. Then I started playing baseball more, high school, college. Didn't really get to go a whole lot. Then going back in that home opener, oh my goodness, just sitting in the seat, seeing that crowd roll in, just the most phenomenal experience I have had as a broadcaster. And it was just very surreal sitting up there and looking down, remembering all the different seats I sat in and celebrating my 13th birthday there. Didn't celebrate my 25th this year, even though the Cats lost 8-1 against Fargo. Stay near here or there, but family being 2 suites down for me. I lived 10 hours away from them last year. Now I live 20 minutes from the ballpark every day. So getting to not just get my own memories and experience as a RailCats broadcast, but also creating memories with fans like you guys and my family at the same time.
Great, great. I do have another question for you. We did this. Was it last week, Kyle, or week before we did awards?
Mhm.
If you were to have to nominate somebody in the RailCats front office environment, who would you pick as your MVP?
Oh man, um, there's a few. I don't know if I can give just one. Obviously, like Anthony. I mean, that guy nonstop. He's the first one there and the last one to leave every day. He's the embodiment of what a leader should be. Um, Dion, I know Dion's he's not with us anymore, but he had to pick up some slack there for a long time because we had someone leave like 3 weeks before the season started, so he had to do a lot more. But I think everyone deserves their own sort of award because it was just, you're busy all the time and you're spending a lot of time away from home. You're there from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, or for me, I'm on the road a lot, so sometimes it's hard to see what they were doing when I wasn't there. Um, and David Clark, I don't know if you guys met David, but he worked on the field, not on the field, but he worked around the ballpark, and he busted his butt every day to make sure he was clean. And if it wasn't, it bothered him. It like drove him nuts. I'm telling you, it did. Um, he's me and him went to college together, so it was really fun to watch him take over that job. And he had such great interns, and our intern class was maybe one of the best I have ever seen in just my short years in pro ball. Uh, they came in every day and they smiled, and even though they were tired or half awake, they were still going to put in their best effort every day. Um, but man, just what a year it was for the front office, and um, I have to give the MVP to Anthony by far. Just that guy, he's really dedicated to making sure that our fans and families and the front office workers and our players have a great experience when they're associated with the RailCats.
I typically ask Chuck for his final thought, but since he's not the star of the show today, it's you, Anthony. Or not Anthony. I said Anthony because I got Anthony on my mind. Why do I have Anthony on my mind? Because you named him just MVP for, it's on my mind.
Oh no,
If
that
it
was
makes you
it.
feel better,
Good job, Anthony.
Yeah,
good job,
Anthony.
Congratulations on the Andrew Mild MVP award.
Yeah.
if it makes you feel any better, I had a few people call me Anthony during the year because I think they talk to Anthony and then go to me and they're like, Anthony. I go, nope, Andrew. Oh yeah, my bad.
Andrew, what is your final thought?
My final thought is that RailCats baseball needs to come back fast. I'm already missing it. I think we're a month in. Starting to have my withdrawals of smelling the hot dogs and the cheeseburgers and having the fans come to the ballpark and interact with them. And I know when that snow hits the ground, like I said, it's gonna be hard. I might have to like be rewatching RailCats games on mute because the one thing is I cannot listen to myself talk. I hate my voice. I know a lot of people say it sounds good. I can't hear it. It drives me nuts. But I think just right now, I think just appreciate just how fun the season was, regardless of wins and losses, and that you get to enjoy it with loved ones, and you get to enjoy it with other people that also really enjoy baseball at your own level, and that there's going to be some like decades and decades where you're going to look back and think those were the good old days, where I get to go to the RailCats and watch their games with friends and families. And I know you both of you are married, so like even with your wives and your kids, and that's what I'm always going to remember is being with these front office members that made it so joyful to come to the ballpark every day. Because like as Andy said in the office, I like to know them in the good old days before I leave them. So appreciate the good old days before you do leave them. So not really the good old days. They're the days that you always fondly remember. And even if they lost 21-0, you still remember them losing 21-0 and cracking jokes with the people around you.
There you go.
Well,
Can't say it any better. That's a lesson that you typically don't learn when you're your age. You typically learn a lot later in life. So that is a very good lesson for anyone out there listening.
I would agree. So again, thank you, and I did it again, Andrew. Ryan, cut it out.
Ryan, give him the right verbiage here.
Andrew, thank you again for spending time out of your night in your off season. Coming back from Florida and getting away for a while and coming back into reality and spending some time with two guys that still can't get your name right, or well, one guy that can't get your name right who runs the podcast. But that's beside the point. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and we will patiently be waiting, scratching at the door for the RailCats season to start and to hear your voice again. I know we should be hopefully here shortly getting some signings, so we'll get some kind of excitement going towards the player side of things. So we get to read your articles that you get to write and get to learn a little bit more about the players as well. So yeah, again, thank you for joining us, and enjoy the off season.
I want to say something here, Andrew. Thank you for all the time and effort that it puts to get prepared for those games that we get to listen to. Thanks for all of the time and effort and knowledge that it takes to bring us the quality that you bring day in and day out. We appreciate it. And I think I can speak for everybody that's listening that we really appreciate that time. We know that it takes a lot to bring 2.5, 3 hours worth of commentary. And so thank you for that.
And that wraps up the interview with Andrew Mild, the voice of the RailCats. Again, I want to thank him very much for jumping onto the podcast and spending an hour and 18 minutes with us and just talking about the baseball season. I know I mentioned last week that was the last episode of 2024, and then the first episode of 2025, we talk about the 2024 season. But I had to get Andrew on, and we're going to be looking for more interviews coming up. But I know, hopefully, like I said, we should, if the trend stays the same, we should expect sometime this week or next week for some players that should be signed and so on and so forth. So for Chuck, I'm Kyle. This has been the RailCats Talk Podcast. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, whenever you're watching this, and go Cats.
The 0-2. Swing and a miss, strike three. Wrap this one up in green.